Good afternoon, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Uh,
Waalaikumsalam.
welcome to urban morphology and design theory. Um, this week, I thought I thought it would be best if we addressed some questions that you might have with regards to the assignment that with regards to the urban morphology assignment. A few days ago, one of the groups asked me um, asked me a question because they found that using Google Earth time series data that between 2007 and I think between 2007 and today, there isn't much change in the urban morphology of their case study location, and so what to do about that? Um, I should remind you that Google Earth data is still quite limited. So I don't think you can go that far back. Um, you might be lucky enough to find a few places that have data up to the last 2 3 decades or so. But most of the time I think they're about I think their data is around the last 10 to 20 years or so. So what to do about that? If there are no observable changes to the to the location that you happen to have chosen, that's fine. You can still trace you can still trace the map as is. I'm I might suggest may I suggest that you trace the most recent version of the map, and then you do a historical research as to how did the city take that shape, and drove um, what drove or what influenced the city's growth and so on. Um, Other than that, you can also try to classify whether the city's layout is more of a grid layout, or is it a concentric layout, and so on and so forth. But again, coming back to data availability, I know it's less than ideal, because you can only observe you can only observe, say, the last 10 years or so, the last 10 odd years, and I think over 10 years, some cities may change significantly, while others are more stagnant, or more others are more stagnant and less experiences less changes. So if you have any burning questions, regarding the assignment, this session is the time to forward your questions, because I figured, rather than having to convey the same information over and over again, I'll have to repeat the information 5 times or so. I just thought, let's just use this session to sit down together and work out possible some of the possible difficulties that you might have. So I've enabled screen sharing if you need to share your screen. Um, Otherwise, you can just you can either unmute to speak, or you can convey your question through the chat box. So yeah.
Want to maybe I want to discuss about our group findings, sir. And maybe
Sure.
you can give us advice. Yes.
Okay,
I want
sure.
to share screen, sir.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, so we have take several pictures of our study case, which is Yogyakarta, because the data is very limited. So we only took it from 2007 until 2021. This is the picture of 2007. This is the picture of 2014, and this is the picture of 2021. And there is no significant difference in these pictures, which I have taught you before. And for the map tracing, I actually have difficulties, so I use a web tracing map, and I on I still only trace two aspects, which is the road network and the building footprint. For the building footprint, just like this, and for the network, like this. And about the topography, I have what is called. I have tried to identify the topography of this area. So I draw a line from this point to this point, and from this we can see that the topography of Yogyakarta is
Not flat.
not flat, but not really slope.
It's not too
Not
steep
really.
either.
Yeah, and maybe I have to redraw it to approximately 1 kilometer. Wait for a second, sir. Okay, so when I zoom it to more approximately 1 kilometer, it quite flat. uh, yeah, so I think this is the topography of Yogyakarta, of the our study case area. And uh, for the next one, I have difficulties to find pictures about Yogyakarta uh, in pre-colonial era, which is the kingdom era, maybe. Yeah, the pictures is mostly when the Dutch has come to Indonesia. So yeah, it is very difficult to find a picture in pre-colonial, but the pictures in colonial is quite a lot, I think. But it is limited to find a map. So we can only find the picture like the Tugu, Jogja, and the Keraton itself, and the other pictures, but it is still difficult to find the maps. I think uh, that's our finding, sir. That's our group finding. Maybe you have an advice for our group.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else? Do the other groups also have difficulties finding images from pre-colonial era? Other groups? Other groups? Groups from Manado, Bandar Lampung, Pontianak, Denpasar, Padang. Do you also have difficulties finding images of pre-colonial era? Okay, I think
For the
yep.
Denpasar, no, sir.
Mhm. You have you have
Uh,
pre-colonial images for Denpasar. Is that what you're trying to say?
yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Um, I think uh, I think some of you may some of you, depending on the location, you may find it would be easier for some of you. It'd be easier for some than for others. I think depending on the location. Um, pre-colonial pre-colonial images may exist in settlements that are quite old, but for cities for that were built after the Dutch came or after colonization, then it would be pretty difficult we're because those early settlements were not really well documented. I'm quite surprised that Yogyakarta does not have pre-colonial images because well um, Yogyakarta is a significant place. Is a place of it's got a historic significance. The place the city has a historic significance. So, but images or publicly available images may not be easy to find. It may be difficult to find. Um, you may have to talk to someone you may have to talk to someone who works in the Yogyakarta archives, or you might have to get in touch with you might have to get in touch with the heritage community or the yeah, with the heritage community and the historic society to obtain those images perhaps even perhaps even to dig out the or to discover to unravel some narratives, some stories that again that may not be publicly available. So I would suggest yeah you find I would suggest you find the historic society. I mean, everyone's on social media nowadays. I'm sure they're not that difficult to find. Um, heritage loving communities. They're also everywhere, I suppose. So see if you can talk to them and find out even more. So don't just rely don't just rely on what Google has to offer, but you can also try to explore other avenues of information finding. Now, as for the topography, um, the topography is an although topography is a is a determining factor in um, in urban morphology, but I don't. But I said in the terms of reference, point number two, I said that you can also construct topographic profiles at various orientations if you have time. In other words, point number two about the topographic profile, the topographic profile is an optional thing. You can focus on other you can focus on other aspects instead. However, what what you have done here, Bima and friends, what you have done here is you can at least use this. You can at least use the data that you discovered right here. So um, so you can use this data here to at least to help you explain typical the typical contour in that particular area. You can say that it doesn't have that much it doesn't have that much difference in elevation, or the difference in elevation is not too extreme. Um, the area is relatively flat, so if it's relatively flat, then that means um, I don't know. It's that means that it's comfortable to walk on, and or maybe because it's flat and it is situated. It is situated how many meters below, or perhaps how many meters above sea level, then it may be prone to flooding, or it is not so prone to flooding, that sort of thing. So you can use this topographic data to help your explanation and help you understand the help you understand your area a bit better. But you don't really have to construct a topographic profile. As I said, it is an optional thing. Okay, what else is there? Maps. Again, with maps, I think a lot of the old maps, I think a lot of historical societies keep, or they know where to look for old maps. Um, Yeah, but again, I suggest you try and communicate with them about this little task of yours. I'm sure they are more than happy to help.
All right, thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome. Anybody else have a similar issue or perhaps a different issue?
I have some source. Can I share screen soon?
Yes, yes, you can.
So I found this website and I think the data is complete, but just until 2010. Can we use this as our source, sir?
Okay. Well, yes. I see from the date that this is a blog article from 2018. So it is quite recent, the although the what do you call this? Although the hang on. Although these series of maps and diagrams, or let's just call it a diagram, is only from 1960 to 2010. Um, however, um, yeah, I don't really know. I don't really know how or where he got where they got the maps from. But if you're, uh, but the short answer is, can you use this source? Yes, you can. You can use this source as your reference. Um, you can also add. You can also add other sources to uh, enrich this current source. Don't rely too much on a single source. That's all. That's all I can say.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
No worries. Anybody else?
It's a question. It's about
Yes.
we should make a A2 poster, and what kind the poster inside. I mean, like it's only for the map only, or it's anybody.
um, you can search samples of scientific posters. Um, Generally, the posters contain not only maps and not only maps and images, but they do have but they also have some text to explain what each image or diagram what each image or diagram is trying to communicate. So yeah, you can use a combination of text and images in your poster to help you explain your findings. Whether the poster should be a whether the poster whether you want to orientate the poster as a portrait or in landscape format, it's up to you. I don't have any preferences, any specific preferences. It's you can orientate the poster however you like. however however you like and however feasible it is for you.
All right, thank you, sir.
Welcome.
I'm from group 4. My location is Padang. I will share screen, sir. So we actually have already screenshot the map from 2005 until 2021, but we're still confused whether we should focus on colonial and also pre-colonial, or like from year to year, sir.
Okay. Given the time frame, I didn't really. Did I? How did I? How did I? How did I? How did I set the task? Briefly outline history. Um, well, in an ideal setting, you would you would try to illustrate pre-colonial, colonial, and then post-colonial eras. However, seeing as the time and resources may not allow you to do so, then you can focus on the year-to-year changes based on data availability. If, for example, in this case, if after your observation between 2005 until 2021, there are no significant changes, then you can just trace one map, because there aren't any significant changes. However, if between 2005 and, for example, let's just do blue, for example, from 2005, and then there is a big significant change in, say, 2018, and then there are no significant changes from 2018 to 2021, then you can just trace the 2005 and the 2021 maps, or 2005 and the 2018 maps. But again, if there are no significant changes, then you can trace the most recent map. I know from a glance, it doesn't seem like there are that many changes from over the last 15, 16 years. And the differences in, I noticed that there are differences in the coastal lines, but that can be due to the different times that the pictures were taken. Structurally, there are wave breakers along the coastline, pemecah ombak, wave breakers to help with the, I don't know whether they're wave breakers or they're piers, boardwalks, but it doesn't seem like there are any changes there either. The differences in color, the differences in color and shading seem to be due to the different times the photos were taken. Some of them may have been taken during low tide. Some of them may have been taken during high tide. So yeah, if that is the case, then you can just trace the most recent map.
So, sir, we don't really need to search about the pre-colonial and colonial map of Padang, sir?
If you can talk to you can search the Historic Society and find out at least how the city has evolved. But what I mean is, you don't have to you don't have to show the you don't have to show the you don't have to show in a pictorial manner. You don't have to show pictures of this is the map from pre-colonial era. This is and so on. You can just explain that, for example, Padang started out as a simple port, maybe as a port of trade, and then it continued to evolve and so on and so on. So narrative history is fine. What I'm saying is you don't have to you don't have to search, you don't have to seek out the you don't have to see you well, you have to seek out its history, but if you can't find the maps, then it's fine. That's what I'm trying to say.
Oh, all right, sir. Thank you so much. That really helpful.
Good. You're welcome. Okay. Any other groups? Okay, if there are no further questions or comments at the time for the time being, you or perhaps you may not have thought about a question yet, or you may not have run into any issues just yet, or maybe all the other groups have the other groups' questions and the answers that I gave have represented your own questions. If there are no other no further questions for the time being, then I think we can conclude this session we can conclude the session. Next week I will deliver kind of like a bridging lecture. So between what is the connection between urban morphology and urban design? And between now and next week, you may consult with me. About your task, your findings, or whatnot. You may send a file. You may send a file for me to annotate and comment, or if you need to consult with me directly via video conference, we can make an appointment. However, if you're going to make an appointment with me, I would suggest that you send the file to me first before we meet. That way, I have a rough idea of what it is that you've done, and then we can continue the discussion when we meet. All right. So, well, thanks for sharing your work and your findings with me today. I find it really interesting. Obviously you've done quite a lot for this task. Keep up the good work, and I look forward to discussing. I look forward to discussing it further with you throughout the week, and until we meet again next week. Thank you everyone. Have a great afternoon. Take care, and assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.